Carlos Nelson with Cascade Media Group. And tonight we have a real special guest. And I'm honored to really do this interview with him. We have the first person of color that is the interim director at Parks and Recreation here in Kansas City. Who do we have here?
I'm Roosevelt Lyons, currently the interim director here at KC Parks.
Hey, Roosevelt, as I said off camera, I want you to go back to kindergarten. I want the people to know who you are and your rise to that position. And on the way in that story, talk about some of the mentors that help you become who you are.
Okay. Well, first, I don't like talking about myself, first of all, Mr. Nelson, but I do appreciate the opportunity. So for most people that don't know, I'm not from Kansas City. So that's the first question you get once you move to Kansas City is, you from here? So the question is no. I'm actually originally from Phoenix, Arizona, and grew up there. Lived in a pretty rough neighborhood. Raised by my dad. My dad raised me. My mom had some mental health issues. My dad had some substance abuse issues. So he raised me and my brother. He was a great dad, did what he can, but it was definitely, we had some challenges growing up. We were, like everybody else around us, poor. So, there in Phoenix, grew up there, did elementary school there, went to middle school there. And then it was actually right when I was going into high school that my dad actually ended up getting arrested. And that's actually how we made it down here to the Midwest. I came and lived with an aunt over actually in Wyandotte County for my first semester. I was over at Schlegel High School. So me and my brother, that was our introduction to Kansas City.
I'm the cutoff king. We're going to be doing Schlegel football team tomorrow.
That was good timing then. But yeah, that was our introduction. We got a lot of family down in Southeast Kansas, a small town called Independence. So I stayed with my aunt for a little bit, and then when my pops got out, we moved down to Southeast Kansas. Stayed with some more family down there, and I had another aunt down there. He was a janitor, worked at a elementary school and raised me and my brother. I got my first job. I couldn't wait to get my first job. Got my first job as soon as I turned 16. I put my application in at McDonald's 2 weeks before I was 16. Got my interview a week before I turned 16. My 16th birthday, I was working at McDonald's. I actually my brother was really good at basketball, so he had basketball. I was really a slacker in high school. I worked full time. So I get out of school, 3:00, 3:30, I go straight to McDonald's, work from 4:00 till about midnight, go home, go to bed, and just do it all again. So high school wasn't really for me. I didn't, I was eyed at, sports, basketball. My brother had a real passion for it. So I really didn't have anything. I actually barely graduated high school. I graduated, at that time, it was a small town in Kansas, 142nd out of 147 people. Really didn't have any plans after high school because nobody wants anybody that's barely graduated. Even though I was fairly smart intellectually, it just wasn't. High school wasn't my thing. It wasn't the thing that motivated me, and I really didn't have anything other than work. So shortly after graduation, I hung out there. I got a lot of family down there in Southeast Kansas. Got myself into a little bit of trouble actually growing up there, and got in trouble with the law a few times. Met my then high school sweetheart, who turned out to be my wife later on in life. We got pregnant at 19, had our daughter at 20, and she told me, "Hey, we can't stay down here anymore. I got a brother in Kansas City. We should go live with him." I was reluctant, of course, because I had a lot of family down in Southeast Kansas, so I wasn't in a hurry to leave. But she told me, like, I'm going, and your daughter's going, and you can come or you can stay. So I decided to come up here, and that is Kansas City. I tell people all the time, Kansas City has been a point in my life that it changed the trajectory of my life, because it did get me out of where I was, where I felt like I didn't have a lot of options in life, whether that's work or whatever the case may be. I was getting in trouble, running the streets, doing all that. So moved up here to Kansas City, got my first job, actually over in Westport at the dry cleaners. That was my first job here, making $7.50 an hour.
What year was that? Do you remember?
2000. That was 2000. So 20 years ago, I've been in Kansas City for about 21 years now. So that's my first job. Worked, did some factory jobs. I remember coming home at one point and telling my wife at the time, and we had a little baby. I don't think I want to do this for the rest of my life. I don't want to keep working these factories. It was 140 degrees, 150 degrees in there. You come home, you're dirty, your body hurts, and I'm 20 years old. So we decided to go back to school. Started going to UMKC part time while I worked. Did a bunch of roles. I've done personal training for a number of years. I was a bouncer. I held multiple jobs. Sometimes I worked in the factory, but really just worked our way through school. Got my bachelor's in, was that 2012? I got my bachelor's in 2012, I think.
Over
Going part-time
UMKC?
at UMKC, bachelor's in liberal arts is what it was. So as soon as I got my bachelor's, I got my first, call it a real job. Actually working for the Division of Youth Services for the Department of Social Services in a treatment facility for kids. They got a pretty good treatment program. So I worked in a residential treatment facility there for a couple of years, and actually started working on a master's in social work over at UMKC. And I did a couple of years of that. Got really involved in politics about that time, around 2012, actually, like everybody else. I'm sorry, back in 2008, I got involved in politics. Volunteered on the Barack Obama campaign, like everybody else did. Really kept a lot of connections with a lot of the staff and all that. So I graduated my bachelor's in 2008. So in 2010, I had got recruited to come work for the Democratic National Committee. I continued to volunteer with the DNC over time. When they were looking for a regional field director here in Kansas City, they had asked me to do it, and this is back in 2010. So this is before midterm elections. They wanted somebody some staff here and across Missouri to kind of continue to advocate for some of the policies President Obama was putting in place. So we did a lot of work on the Affordable Care Act and worked on midterm elections and a few other things. So that's kind of how I got really started, in politics. I did that for a couple of years, made some good connections. When Mayor Sly James was taking office, a guy reached out to me, one of the staff members reached out to me and asked me if I'd be interested in coming to work for him. I said, sure. Went and worked with Sly for a couple of years, did some youth programming, did a lot of other stuff, pretty much whatever he told me to do. Started the Club KC program again, which is pretty much Hot Summer Nights Part 2. I think that's when you and I came in contact. Did the youth internship program. Eventually met Terry Reiner over here in the Parks Department. I ended up stopping my social work degree, switched over to a master's in public administration. Finished that in 2014, and then Terry was doing some restructuring over here with the Parks Department. So came over here in 2014 as a manager of recreation. Eventually made it to superintendent of recreation. I became the first Black deputy director, which is my current title, and now I'm the first Black director. It's interim right now, so that's kind of how I got here. Obviously Terry believed in me. Terry Reiner was a big part of my success, and pulled me along and drug me along and supported me in a lot of the work I do. Outside of that, it was a lot of my family, really. It's a hard transition for anybody that's leaving that life, if you want to call it whatever, and sometimes you don't always get the support when people say, no, you need to go, get out of here, go do something else. We still love you. And sometimes you need that push. And not everybody gets that. And sometimes people want to keep you where you at because it's comfortable for them. So, those are some of the people that obviously, the mayor it was great to watch him in action and watch his style of just being direct and honest. And I definitely took a lot of that away. And that's how I try to deal with most of my interactions, try to be direct and honest and not, save those agendas for later. So that's it. So I'm here.
Hey, Roosevelt, you told your story. That was my story.
Was it?
Yeah, I'm in New York. You graduate with 3 different types of diplomas: a general diploma, shop, gym, commercial, typing, bookkeeping, academic, that everybody's supposed to 4 years of math, algebra, language, and all of that. I graduated in the bottom third of my class. Trouble with the law. Because I'm in media, I understand it's not me, it's not you. The system is set up for us to have all these. When you were saying your story, that was my story. That's a bunch of people, and school's not for everyone.
Mhm.
At one time, I thought something was wrong with me because as far as excelling,
Yep.
and it's more so you got to be put in the right position. You come into Kansas City. I'm from New York. I came here in '78. You meet the different people. That's your currency in life.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
I, boy, that I'm saying that story, that is our story in general. A lot of people don't understand it. And then there are people that look like us that really won't tell their true story about where they came from, the problems that they had, and so forth. So I felt that you had done been understudy under Terry. I thought Terry was a great. She provided great leadership over there at Parks and Rec, and I think, as far as I'm concerned, you're an extension to moving forward uh, with progress. Before Terry had it, Terry Dobson was there, and he made big changes under the Gates administration. And then Terry came. To me, they had a little mafia over there at the Parks and Rec, and Terry came and straightened that out. I'm saying, far as I won't say nepotism, but all this favoritism type stuff. And Terry came and cleaned that up, as far as I'm concerned. Now, I can't say about nobody else. And the
Mhm.
Parks and Rec department has been on a different trajectory, how it relates with the community and so forth. In the past, it was managed from the top down. I think Terry has, under her leadership, start trying to get the community. What do you need? What do you
Mhm.
know? What it is that do y'all need? We're not trying to tell you what you need, and trying to work with the community a little better.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll take that as a compliment. But yeah, Terry was big on accountability, and that included for herself, and even for me, who, she supported a lot, right? So she was always willing to call herself out, call the department out when we weren't doing something we should be doing, or just to do something a little bit better. So accountability was big for her. Owning your stuff, right? Making sure that you are being forthright with it, I think was big for Terry also. But also just yeah, that community support, and I think prioritizing neighborhoods and communities that didn't always feel like they were being treated as a priority. I think we're huge for Terry, and things that I want to continue here. We still got a lot of work to do, but I feel like she definitely came in at the right time, disrupted a lot of things, and I think we're in a good place to kind of continue forward and continue making those improvements.
Do you have any specific goals that you would like to reach under your tenure?
Yeah, I got a few. We started, when Terry was here, we started what we call our QLID district, which is our quality of life investment district. And that is, there's 38 parks within 6 zip codes. Those 6 zip codes have the lowest life expectancy in the city. They also rank lower on a lot of our internal audits. So they're older parks with older sidewalks, older playgrounds, older everything. So one of our goals right now, we created this district. We brought one of our best staff members. His name's Dave Stark to lead that initiative, and he's already done a lot of great work out there. Whether that's replacing all the picnic tables, replacing the grills. We do on some of our parkways and boulevards, cleaver and swope, and extra mowing cycles and litter cycles on some of those. Replacing basketball nets, replacing some playgrounds. We got a playground package out right now. So all that to say, one of our goals right now is making sure that those parks and those 38 parks and those 6 zip codes are at the same level as every park across the city. It's a pretty big task. And it's going to require a couple of years of work, but that's one of our biggest jobs I think that we can do right now is making sure that everybody, no matter what park where you live at, you have a high quality experience at your park. The other part is, we got to be more efficient with the funds we have, and that means, making sure our staff are punching in and punching out, staying on the job, doing everything that we can do as efficiently as possible, so those dollars stretch a little bit further.
How is the covert affecting your staff and so forth? How are they mentally?
Yeah, this has been a challenge for everybody, because everybody, this whole last 2 years, everybody's dealing with their own personal stuff, whether that was COVID stuff, whether you got family members that may have lost a job, back when there was racial unrest and people were protesting, right? So you go out to Mill Creek Park where a lot of protests were happening. Well, our staff were the ones out there. They got to go out there and clean up and do all that at the end of the day, right? So they're not only are they dealing with current events and things that are happening at the time, but they're going out there and they're cleaning up the parks, right? In some ways, it was nice to see COVID got everybody back outside, back into their parks, back out on the trails, getting some physical activity. But that meant that we didn't have a break, right? We didn't get to slow down.
How did that affect your budget?
It was a tough year. We actually lost this budget year, this current fiscal year, about 16% of our budget. So that's about $11 million that we are short. So our normal typical budget is somewhere around 70 million. Right now we're at 59 million. So it's a pretty big impact. And if not for some really good fiscal management from the years before us, building up a reserve balance, we would have had to make some pretty drastic cuts. As it was, we didn't have the cuts that we made were not service cuts. We didn't, cut programs. We didn't cut staff. We didn't. We did decrease some mowing cycles, but for the most part, people didn't see a difference in their in the service that we provided. We were not able to hire as many staff because there was a hiring freeze. So that was a big problem. At one point, we were down about half our frontline staff members and not really able to fill those positions. So those are some of the biggest impacts. But for the most part, we drew on a fund balance. We did get some money from ARP to help cover some of those costs for this year that we're still taking on. But this was definitely a challenging year. It would have been very difficult had we not gotten some funding from ARP.
All right. I would be remiss if I didn't say this. Audience, I don't be sucking up. So my next statement, I give y'all some kudos because I try to bury Parks and Rec when they doing stuff that I don't think they should be doing. Over there at Martin Luther King Park, we had done a story on them. And boy, I'm driving through there. I see the playground and all this stuff going up. And I'm like, oh, they on their damn job now.
Yeah. Yes, so that, we started that process. I was just telling somebody. So we just looked at kind of over the last couple of years, how much we've invested in that park. It's been about $3 million. Some of that's private donations from Patrick Mahomes' foundation. A lot of it is city money. Back a couple of years ago, after the Paseo renaming happened, of course, we're getting a lot of heat. People saying, well, we got a park and look at it. What are you going to do about that? And that was Terry's decision to say, hey, we're going to prioritize this park right now. So we actually started before the Mahomes Foundation was interested on doing things like we put in a new restroom, we put in new signs, put in some new landscaping. And so when the Mahomes Foundation came and said, we want to do something, we said, here's a perfect spot right here. We'll show it to you. And we gave them a list, but we kept saying, this is the perfect spot. And eventually we said, yeah, this is the perfect spot. And since then, we've gotten donations from J.E. Dunn and just a lot more attention there. So
that was my next question. That I don't feel the corporate community, not just with Parks and Rec, just and corporate America in general, they're not paying their fair share to us. And I'm glad to hear that from Mahomes. Can you give any other companies you might want to illuminate that is working with Parks and Rec? Give them a little something, even if you miss some.
Nothing. J.E. Dunn comes to my mind right now because they did pitch in and help out with that shelter free of cost. They decided they wanted to do something there at that park, and everybody. everybody likes a winner, of course. So
Right.
when things are going well, it's up to us to kind of capitalize that on and push that a little bit more. We have a couple other kind of donations in the works. I will say that we have had some success lately with. We launched our Partners in Parks program recently again, and that's just a way for either neighborhoods or other organizations kind of adopt a space and to help with that space or a park. So Jay Dunn also adopted Ilis Davis Park. We have a couple others that have adopted. Starlight's adopted some space over here. And so they come in and they do extra cleanings and volunteer work and plantings and all those kind of things. So I think,
Is there
now
any
we are.
one project that you want to see done?
Yeah, I mean, if you were to ask me, it's a big one. It's, whether you're talking about Brush Creek itself, the creek, and getting that cleaned up and making sure that it is, and actually it's an amenity that people want to visit and want to see, but also MLK Parkway. Right now we're working with community builders to do about $1 million worth of landscaping improvements along that boulevard. I think getting that, MLK Park, MLK Boulevard up to standard is one of the big projects that we got to do right now. Make it as attractive as Ward Parkway and any other of our boulevards, but also as we look at Brush Creek Greenway, programming that, and also just the creek itself, figuring out a way to get that cleaned up a little bit as well. So those are just
audience. If you don't know, Parks and Rec is responsible for all our boulevards, and that's what he's talking about.
Yep. Yeah, we mow and make all the boulevards here in the city. Yeah.
Would you have any closing comments or anything that you'd like to let our audience know?
No, I definitely want people to know that they have an ear here with our department. If there's something that you want to see us do, you got some crazy idea you want to throw out there, you got some programming that you want to see, I think this department is always open to that. We may not always do it the way you want us to do it. You might come with some crazy idea. We might be like, whoa, 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 slow down. Maybe this is how we can do it. But I don't think you ever get a hard no from us. I think we're always willing to work with organizations and communities. If you have an idea, want something done at your park or community center, if you come to us and ask us, I think we're always going to try to find a way to make it work out.
Excellent. I'm stealing one of my hosts' closing, Mr. Jim Watts. He always closes his interviews with, "It was a plum pleasing pleasure to have you on the show." And Jim, I stole your stuff and you better not try to steal mine. Now, I close always with, when you invest in your community, you're really just investing in yourself. Good night.
The program is brought to you by the Kansas City Business Association.